Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining tonight's meeting and taking time out of your day. Before we start, we're going to make sure that everybody can participate in the meeting in whatever language you're most comfortable. So on this slide, you can see how to adjust your Zoom options so that you hear whichever language you prefer. So if you would like to hear in English, you go down to the bottom if you're joining on a computer to the world-like icon. You click on that and select English, or you select Spanish if you would prefer to hear the meeting in Spanish. And that should work if you're on a tablet or a phone. There's 3 dots and you click that, and then you should get the option whether to listen in English or Spanish. I'm going to pass it to Lingüística to give these options in Spanish, these instructions in Spanish, then we're going to make sure everybody can hear. So pass it to you, Lingüística.
Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a la junta del día de hoy. Vamos a tener la opción de interpretación disponible para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom hay un icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación. Seleccionamos el icono y luego seleccionamos español y silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar la interpretación del inglés al español y no escuchen 2 voces a la vez. Y si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde su dispositivo móvil, pueden tocar la pantalla, seleccionamos los 3 puntos, nuevamente interpretación de idiomas o language interpretation, seleccionamos el idioma español y al terminar seleccionamos finalizado, terminado o listo. Gracias. Thank you.
Great, so we're going to take a second to make sure that everybody can hear in the language that they would like to hear in. So if you are not hearing the correct thing, please unmute and ask for help or put something in the chat or raise your hand. Looking around.
My interpretation thing didn't work right now. It wasn't translating.
So let's talk again. Maybe it didn't. Can you hear the correct language now? Well, now it's kind of hard because every time we ask, we stop talking. There's nothing to translate.
I think I'll be fine.
Okay. You could always chat to either Vanessa or one of the Lingüística people, and we could help you out.
Thank you.
Everybody else able to hear in the language that you would like to hear in? Great. If at any time it gets, messed up, jump up and down or wave your arms around or something, and we can pause and make sure everybody can hear. Great. So with that, welcome to the June Shafter Community Steering Committee meeting. As usual, Vanessa and I are going to co-facilitate today's meeting, and we're joined by Jessica and Rocio and a number of folks from the Air District and a number of special guests that you'll hear from later on. We really, really appreciate you all joining us, especially on an evening, especially when it's, stays light till really late. It's nice to be outside. So we really appreciate your commitment to your communities and helping improve air quality. As always, at the beginning of our meeting, we're going to go over a couple of logistics that are on this slide. So everybody is doing this really well already. Mute yourself if you're not talking so that we don't hear background noise. That said, if you would like to speak, please feel free to unmute and share or ask a question or raise your Zoom hand and do that, or put it in the chat. Please change the screen name associated with your little Zoom box so that we know who you are, and that if you're a CSC member participating in the stipend program, we track your participation for that program. You might notice that either Vanessa or me or one of the Air District people changes your name so that it has the right designation after it. That's just to make it easier. And going to the next slide. To support everybody's participation, again, this is your meeting, so please, ask questions and all of that. If you're on a phone and you're wanting to mute yourself or unmute yourself, do *6, and that will do the same thing as muting if you're joining on a computer. And the same thing if you want to raise your hand and you're joining on the phone, do *9. So *9 to raise your hand if you're on the phone and *6 to mute or unmute. And this is our agenda for today. So they're a representation of what you would like to hear and what we've talked about in past meetings. We have an agenda setting meeting most months, the week after the CSC meeting. So actually we'll talk about this at the end, but the agenda setting meeting for our next meeting is next week. And you all actually really show up for those, and it's reflected in our agenda items for the meetings. They're really reflecting of what you want to hear. So today's agenda, we're going to start as always by reviewing the action item tracker, the action items from our past meetings and where those are. We're going to spend some time talking about the SERP measure implementation updates, then spend probably most of our time talking about the district enforcement efforts. And then as always, we'll wrap up with standing updates and talking about agenda setting meeting times and the date of our next meeting and all of that. And then we will have public comment, a specific time for public comment at the end as well. Stop sharing my screen and pass it to Jessica for some opening comments.
Thank you. I'll just say, as always, my name is Jessica Olson. I'm the Director of Community Strategies and Resources. Welcome all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really eager. All of the topics on the agenda today, as always, are driven by the feedback we get from all of you. So we're really excited. You're going to hear from a lot of different folks tonight, which is really exciting, just showing the breadth of the different things we're working on. So thanks for joining us tonight, and I'll pass it back to you, Diana.
I was muted. I feel like the more I do this, the more I feel like I should not, do these little unmute things, but this is proof that we're all human. So the first thing that we're going to start off, as always, is the agenda, the action item tracker. So as you know, during the meetings, Vanessa and I take notes and track specific action items with things that came up during the meeting that you all would like somebody to follow up on. And then we share them at the beginning of the next meeting to make sure we're all in agreement about what the next steps are and who's responsible for doing them. So now I'm going to pass it to Rocio to share the action items and progress from the May meeting.
Thank you, Diana. Good evening, everyone. This is Rocio. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can move on with the action items. Okay, can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have 3 action items from the previous meeting that I will go over today, starting off with in progress section. So for context, as folks remember from the last meeting, there was questions on the low dust nut harvester measure, including where the equipment was being used. So right now the district is looking into this request, and we'll make sure to circle back with some more information about this at a future CSC meeting. So going back up to the top and then moving on to the completed section. So at the last CSC meeting, DPR shared some links with the CSC about the pesticide monitoring system and PREC. And so it was noted as an action item to share these links with the CSC. So we went ahead and shared this with folks via email. So moving on to the ongoing action item. So we noted this action item down as ongoing, and this is for the wonderful team and the Air District to always continuously coordinate to provide guidance and experience to any community partners that are interested in planning vegetative barriers in Shafter. And so that was all of the action items, super quick. There was only 3 today, but I'm happy to take any questions or comments that folks might have.
Any questions about the action items for Rocio? Feel free to unmute or to put something in the chat. I'm not seeing any of them. Thank you so much, Rocio. So now we're going to our first kind of main agenda item, and this is the CERT measure implementation update. So Jessica from the Air District is going to kick off the discussion, and then she's going to be joined by some folks from District Grants and the Valley Clean Air Now, or Valley CAN group. They're going to share updates about 2 specific CERT measures. As you know, we rotate the updates that we talk about specifically in the meeting based on your interest. And so the ones that are going to be talked about today are the passenger vehicle replacement measure, and then the passenger vehicle repair measure. That's also called tune in and tune up. And they're going to share the goal and the status of each program, and then also how your communities and your families can participate in these. We have about 25 minutes for this agenda item, so feel free to ask questions and make sure that you understand what the progress is and what you can do. And Rocio put a link to the presentation in the chat. So thank you, Rocio, for doing that. And I'm going to pass it to Jessica.
Thank you. This is Jessica. Hello again. Welcome all. I hope we're seeing my screen. Is that correct? Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Well, as mentioned, there are 2 measures we're going to go over because they are both officially launched. These are both measures, as you saw in our last couple of meetings. We've talked a lot about the different buckets of measures. So measures that are for businesses that have sort of the higher polluting operations, measures that are for the communities or agencies, measures like paving roads or having sidewalks. And then there's measures that are directly for residents. And the measures for residents that provide the most funding and really the most benefit, I think you'll all agree, are providing passenger vehicle replacement or repairs for your vehicles and the vehicles of your neighbors. So we're really, really excited about both of these measures officially launched. They are both open, and we have some really exciting updates for you today. The first measure is replacement. So I'm going to really briefly introduce what the measure was in the CERP, and then I'm going to pass to Akio. He's on our incentives team. He is an expert in all of everything to do with this type of measure, and he's going to walk through a few examples of how the measure works, because it has been a little bit since we've talked to you all about what goes on with this measure. Really briefly, this measure is to fund replacement, that's why it's called the replacement measure, of passenger vehicles with electric or plug-in hybrid vehicles for residents that live anywhere within that big Shafter boundary. The funding allocation that you all have in your CERP is $6 million, which actually, just side note, is actually the most out of any of the CERPs in the Valley. So certainly, as you all were prioritizing the work in your community, this was a really important measure. We have approval from CARB, and we've entered into a contract with Valley Clean Air Now, who is our partner who does all of the outreach work to actually run this program. And we'll talk about kind of who that is and their outreach work in an upcoming workshop they have in just a moment. So actually, really briefly, this is an overview of all of the different there's kind of a few different types of funding that you can get based on what you're replacing and what you're purchasing. So I'm actually going to pass it to Akio, who's going to walk you through this and also a couple of examples of how these types of funding can be applied to the types of vehicles that you're purchasing and replacing. So go ahead, Akio.
Thank you, Jess, and good evening, everyone. My name is Akio Bastion with the Valley Air District. All right, let's get into this passenger vehicle replacement measure. So it's intended for low-income qualified residents that reside within the Shafter AB 617 boundary. And with this program, you'll have the opportunity to receive either $18,000 towards the purchase of a brand new plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, or $20,000 towards the purchase of a fully battery electric vehicle through the program. If a new vehicle doesn't end up suiting you, though, however, you do have the option to purchase a used plug-in hybrid electric vehicle or a used electric vehicle as well. However, the amount that you'd be offered through the program would be a little bit less. For a fully electric, it would be $12,000 instead of $20,000, and then for a plug-in hybrid, it would be $11,500 instead of $18,000 towards that vehicle. However, you do still have the opportunity to gain some additional funding. It's not through a district program, however, it's through PG&E, in which they offer up to $4,000 in additional funding through their used EV rebate program. And that can be used again towards a plug-in hybrid vehicle or a used electric vehicle. You can go ahead to the next slide, please. So, what does low income mean to us? It means that your household income must be at or below 300% of the federal poverty level. And this chart here is what that looks like. So, for example, if your most recent federal tax return shows that you're the only individual in your household, you don't have any dependents or a spouse, you'd have a household size of 1. You'd have to make $43,740 or less annually, basically, to be considered eligible for this program. Now, if your most recent tax return from 2023 has 4 individuals, say on there, maybe you have 3 independents plus you, that would be a household size of 4, and you would have to make at or below $90,000 in this scenario. So as you can see, the income threshold does increase with the size of the household. And that can be determined as well through our program website. You can calculate that there. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So to be considered eligible as well too, the vehicle that you're replacing through the program must be 2006 or older. You must have owned the vehicle for at least 6 months, and this can be usually proven through the issue date on your title. So also other means we can verify that as well. We also want to confirm that the vehicle has been in use in California for the past 2 years consistently, and this is usually shown through registration or insurance coverage. We want to make sure that the vehicle is still operable at the time of the replacement as well. And then also that you have a valid California driver's license. It cannot be expired. You can go to the next slide for me. Thank you. So here's scenario 1 of an example of a participant coming through the program. We have Josie, who lives in Shafter with their partner and 2 kids. Together, they make $88,000 a year, which qualifies them based on that low income eligibility table we just showed you. They want to get rid of their 2005 Honda Civic and buy a used electric car. So since it's 2006 or older, that vehicle would be eligible. So they work with the district and Valley CAN to apply for the program. Once their application's approved, they go to shop at our eligible dealership, Bakersfield CarMax, and they find a used 2019 Nissan Leaf EV for $14,000. So since this is used, they're not eligible for the $20,000. However, they are eligible for the $12,000 incentive through the program, which is taken off the price of the car right at the dealership during the final transaction. Josie pays the remaining $2,000 out of pocket plus the cost of the tax, title, and registration. Then Josie also submits all their information to PG&E to receive a rebate check for up to $4,000 made out in their name. So they're still in pretty good shape, even though they didn't receive that increased incentive of $20,000. So now Josie's family drives an electric car that costs them just basically the tax, title, and registration. And that's an example for a used EV purchase in the program. Now we can walk through a scenario of purchasing a new EV through the replacement program. So in this example, we have Cecilia and Pat. They're retired and they live next to Shafter High School. Through Social Security, they earn together $57,000 a year, which qualifies them on that low income eligibility table. They want to get rid of their 2003 Volkswagen Beetle and buy a new electric vehicle, brand new. So they work with the district and Valley Can to apply for the program. Once their application is approved, they shop at Nissan of Bakersfield and find the new 2024 Nissan Leaf EV for $29,000. So since it's a new vehicle that they're shopping for, this one, they're eligible for the $20,000 from the district. And this is also taken off at the price of the dealership, the price of the car right at the dealership. So Cecilia gets a car loan to pay the remaining $9,000 left, plus the tax, title, and registration. And now Cecilia and Pat drive a brand new electric car that costs them that $9,000 in tax, title, and registration. So we have some real life examples here to show you today too. For example, on the left, we have a used 2019 Nissan Leaf S right now that's going for $13,998. They obviously got $12,000 towards that from the program. That would leave them with just shy of $2,000 left, but they can also apply for that PG&E rebate program up to $4,000, which basically covers the rest for them. And a real life example as well, looks like at Nissan of Bakersfield for a brand new 2024 Nissan Leaf S is currently going for $29,030 after the Nissan rebate is applied that they have there. So in this scenario there, they would receive $20,000 towards that $29,030. And it's kind of like that example we just showed you on that last slide where they pay $9,000 out of pocket plus tax, registration, and title. The current program dealerships in Kern County that we have right now are going to be Richland Chevrolet, CarMax Bakersfield, and Nissan of Bakersfield. We are constantly onboarding dealerships every month, so this may increase in the future. But as of now, this is the three that we have in your area. You can view their inventory with the following links. The eligible dealership list is also found on the program website. So we also today have our program manager from Valley Clean Air Now, Veronica Valencia, who's going to go ahead and take it away and explain the outreach that we're doing for the Shafter AB 617 community.
Thank you, Akio. Hi, good afternoon. So as Akio mentioned, we do have outreach right now going on for the current AB 617. We will be in Shafter on Monday, June 17th. The clinics usually are held between 5:30 to 7:30. We do arrive since 4 o'clock because we have usually a line of people that get there before 5:30. This event here will be at the Firehouse Pizza, East Lerdo Highway in Shafter. We do have bilingual representatives at all of our drop-offs or all of our clinics. We do have bilingual representatives to assist all customers. What we're requiring from customers and what we ask them to bring to make sure that their application is complete and can be submitted immediately is the 2 years registration, 2 years of insurance. So we do ask from the current month. So right now we're in June. So we would ask from June of 2022 to current 2 years of insurance. The vehicle title, we need to verify that there's no lien. We do ask for the first 2 pages of the 1040 tax return. Right now, we are asking already for 2023s. We do ask for pages 1 and 3 of the current PG&E bill or the SoCal Edison bill, and of course, a valid California driver's license. And though that is the information that we're requiring from customers to come to the drop-off. We do have customers that come and ask for questions. They want to make sure that it's real, that we will, handle their documentation accordingly. And then sometimes they come, verify, go back home if they're closing up, and then come back and bring their documents. But the option is that they can also email it in as well, or they can submit it through the online portal. And that's the information that we have for this event. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions.
Diana, this is Jessica. Now would be a great time for anyone from the CSC before we transition to the next topic to have any questions for Akio or Veronica.
Great, and I see Linda has a question.
Hey, I just had a question if you guys had given this to the city of Shafter, because they have a pretty good social media platform that they could push this out. And if not, could you email it to me and I'll send it to them?
Check. I don't think so unless we have a direct contact, but can you send me your email and I will have it sent over to you right now?
Okay. How?
Or if
Okay.
you put it in the chat, I'll get it from there. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And while that's happening, Bianca wants to know if there's a link for the flyer that somebody could put in the chat also, and so that like the one that's shown in this slide, where it shows exactly the documents that people need to bring.
This is Jessica. I think we can do that, and we'll put that in right now.
Thank you. Other questions about the vehicle replace program? The next thing is the vehicle repair, so I want to make sure that we get all the questions for the vehicle replace program.
This is Rosu. I just wanted to share with the CSC that we did go ahead and send out these exact flyers that you see in the presentation right here via email. And then I can also send these to folks in the mail tomorrow. So I'll make sure to mail the CSC some hard copies so that way they can share with their networks as well.
Great, thank you. And Bianca, just want to make sure that that's what you're looking for. Yeah, let us know if there's something else that you need. Other questions about the vehicle replace program?
Hi, this is Vanessa. I have a follow-up question about. Hi, this is Vanessa. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I have a question for Akio about the vehicle replacement program. I noticed that there were a couple of models mentioned, and I'm wondering if there's any restrictions on the electric or hybrid vehicles that can be purchased with funds.
There is only restrictions on the vehicles. They can't be the model year can't be older than 2017. The odometer reading also must be less than 100,000 as well at the time of the transaction. But those are the only restrictions that we have on the vehicles. They also can't have any active recalls, so any recalls that may be active or pending must be cleared before the sale of the vehicle too. That's a very important one as well. So that way we're making sure our participants are receiving quality vehicles on the road. But those are the main restrictions against the vehicles. Of course, they have to come from our eligible dealerships as well too. And they are meant for light duty vehicles as well too. So they're not meant to be, I believe the range is the limit's either 100,000 or 90,000 as a maximum for the gross vehicle weight rating. But we don't really run into too many EVs that meet that threshold. So those are the main ones there that we're looking for.
This is Vanessa. Thank you so much.
This is Akio. You're welcome.
This is Diana again. Any other questions about the vehicle replace program? Bianca.
I have a question to the Valley or to the Air District. If they don't see any movements, are they going to do a review like in the Arvin and Lamont community after the 6 months if they don't see any movement happening with the car replacement? Are they going to review it and maybe change some of the clauses so other communities are able to outreach not just lower income but maybe middle class or so?
This is Jessica. We can make the same commitment to review participation 6 months from since we're launching the program today. So at the end of the year, we can make a commitment to review with you all program participation and interest. We're even happy to, at our next meeting, even talk about how many folks signed up even at the most recent event, the event on Monday. So we'll definitely commit to that, Bianca. That sounds like a great option, is to keep everyone informed on progress. Thanks.
This is Diana. I like that idea too about at the next meeting letting us know how many folks participated in the outreach. Thanks for raising that, Bianca. So I think I will suggest that we move to the vehicle repair measure, and then we could always at the end, if there's time, open it up for questions on any of this. So passing it back to you all.
Sounds great. This is Jessica. I'm just this is a little bit more straightforward, but I also have a team behind me to help answer any questions about this measure as well. At the exact same time that we launched the vehicle replace measure, we also launched our vehicle repair measure. You might all be familiar with what we call tune in, tune up. This is a specific funding allocation just to host an additional event in your community. This is funding for emissions-related repairs of high-emitting vehicles. We have $400,000 in this, and the project plan, again, was approved by CARB. The details are vehicle owners in the boundary can get a repair voucher for up to $850 if their vehicle is in need of smog-related repairs. And we have, of course, as mentioned, entered that same contract and agreement with Valley Can, also applies to this measure. This allows us to host an event in the Shafter community, and we are working right now with Valley Can to schedule what that event looks like. Of course, we'll work with all of you to make sure folks know about the event, how to get there, how to make sure that they show up and get their event or get their vehicle voucher for repair. So I'm just going to describe really briefly what the vehicle tune in, tune up events look like. So these are local weekend testing events. This is an example of essentially we set up, or we don't, our Valley Can partners, I should say, set up sort of a drive-through process where folks bring their cars to a specific location. They go and drive up, and approved participants are they essentially get testing, I should say, through this drive-through process. You can see here folks using tools to test and understand any emissions related repairs that might be needed for these vehicles. And approved participants are provided vouchers for any necessary emissions related repairs at participating smog shops. So these are not only great programs to allow folks to get their vehicle repaired, but we also use these programs for outreach for that replacement measure as well. So it's definitely another opportunity. Maybe instead of getting a voucher, folks are then able to just see that we can replace their vehicle with those other incentives available. And we use it as a time to provide opportunities to connect with folks about things like clean air rooms and other incentives programs available to them. So I'm just maybe going to pause there and see if there's any questions. I know a lot of you are pretty familiar with the tune in, tune up process, but I definitely have other folks here that are maybe more familiar and can answer some detailed questions. I do see Michelle's hand.
Yes. What is an approved participant? Is that the same qualification as the vehicle replacement? What makes you an approved participant?
Sorry, I'm unmuting myself right now. I don't know if Akio or someone on our team has a better answer, but essentially it says approved participant, but essentially a couple of things. You definitely need to, it's smog emissions related repairs. So you definitely, like, the testing has to yield or come out that you need a repair done. Akio, can you or someone on our team describe are there like additional participation requirements in terms of income or anything related to the vehicle itself? I know it has similar requirements for age of vehicle as well.
Yes, hi, this is Akio. It's open to all Valley residents, so there's no income criteria that you have to meet for this program. It's a program that you're able to participate in every 12 months as well too. So you're able to renew the voucher every 12 months from the date of the previous repair, if that is necessary. But a lot of people get their repairs taken care of with one voucher. Yeah, but as type of vehicles that are able to go through the program, I I don't think there's too much restriction on that either. I mean, it is for residential vehicles only though. So Veronica, I'm not sure if you know if there's any restrictions more on the Valley Cam side. You guys
No,
a
you
little bit
covered it,
more.
just the Valley resident.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
This is Diana. Annabella put a question in the chat. Is there a date or location for an upcoming event of this kind?
We do not yet have one scheduled. These take a little bit more time to schedule and nail down a location. These are really large locations that we book at these communities. As soon as we have that schedule, I know that we're very close, we will let you all know. And we'll do the same thing where Veronica just shared the outreach plan and the flyers. We'll do the same thing with you all and share any flyers and upcoming meeting or event information.
This is Diana. Thank you, Jessica and Akio. Other questions about the vehicle repair? Or Jessica, I could also let you go to your next slide.
My last is just, we'll continue to work with Valley Can, not only on what I just said, which is outreach, but also on scheduling and communicating to you the time and location of the Tune In Tune Up event and any other upcoming workshops for the replace measure. That one workshop on Monday, I want to assure you, is not the only workshop that will happen. It just happens to be the first. And then, of course, as mentioned, and I think as committed to based on Bianca's question, we will always bring you implementation progress and any additional information as needed to make sure it's transparent, open on how we're doing on the program. And with that,
Can I make a quick correction, Jess? Sorry, I realized what I said earlier. I said 90,000 or 100,000 pound limit on the vehicle. I meant 9,000 or 10,000. Sorry, I had an extra digit there, but just wanted
very, very heavy passenger vehicles otherwise. Thanks, Akio.
My apologies there. Thanks.
This is Diana. Thank you, Akio. Any questions about any of that, the passenger replacement or repair, or any of the presentations that we just heard? Feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or put the question in the chat.
Well, if nothing occurs to you all now, anything at the end, let us know. We have a great team here and a great partnership with Valley Can, and they're so helpful. Please, if you can, or encourage your neighbors to attend the event on Monday. Veronica and her team are so helpful. We just had one of these in Stockton and there were like over 100 people. I mean, it was a really great turnout. And as Veronica mentioned, folks are really eager and her team is really ready to help you all. So we're so excited to get this launched. We've been looking forward to this and I know you have longer than we have. Thank you.
This is Diana. Thank you, Jessica and Akio and Veronica. I'm now going to pass it to Vanessa for our next agenda item.
This is Vanessa. Thank you, Diana, and thanks to everyone for your engagement. Next up, we're going to be diving into discussion on another topic that folks have been pretty interested in learning about, which is compliance and enforcement efforts being done in the Shafter community. And first off, I'd like to thank everyone who has voiced their interest in discussing this topic so far, whether that's been in past CSC meetings or at agenda setting meetings. We really appreciate your feedback. And in order to keep the CSC informed and keep these conversations going, we're gonna revisit that topic today. So this item's goal is to discuss enforcement efforts, progress, and commitments in the CERP, or the Community Emissions Reduction Program, as well as review the quarterly enforcement report. So at this time, I'd like to pass the mic on to Karen and Jennifer, who will be presenting today.
Hi, thank you, Vanessa. My name is Karen. Let me share my screen. Okay, think we're good to go. Are we in presentation mode? Does that look okay?
It looks great.
It does.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Russell. I'm an inspector with the Air District. I've been assigned to the Shafter area for about 4 months now. And today we're going to review together compliance and enforcement efforts in Shafter. And I'll plan on talking through any questions at the end. So if anything occurs to you during this presentation, if you'll just take note of it and we can discuss it at the end. So how does the district enforce its rules and regulations? In Shafter, we've implemented an enhanced enforcement schedule, which means that we perform more frequent inspections at stationary sources. Public complaints are treated as a top priority. We try to contact the reporting person who's called the complaint in within an hour and respond by either conducting a field inspection or referring the complaint to the appropriate agency as soon as possible. And then we implement the other enforcement strategies outlined in the CERP, and we'll review each of those later on. But now we'll talk more in depth about what inspections of permitted sources look like. So our goal as an enforcement team is to make sure that businesses, individuals, and municipalities within our jurisdiction are complying with local, state, and federal air quality regulations. Each year, the district performs inspections at over 9,000 permitted facilities and responds to around 3,000 public complaints. We go out on inspections for a number of different reasons. Firstly, facilities are subject to routine unannounced inspections. So those happen at a regular interval. Also, when new equipment is installed at a facility, an inspector will perform a startup inspection to make sure that the equipment is operating as it was permitted to operate and to answer any questions that the facility might have about their permit. If equipment has malfunctioned or broken down at a facility and that's caused the facility to violate permit conditions, we go out to perform breakdown inspections. We're also on site to witness third-party emissions testing for equipment like boilers or engines. And because inspections are unannounced, we're able to observe equipment operating as it typically does and ask questions about the facility's process and review their records from the previous year or previous years. And we also take equipment into the field with us to verify compliance with permitted emission limits. This equipment can include toxic vapor analyzers, stack emission analyzers, and thermal imaging cameras. So here we've got a summary of Shafter's CERP enforcement measures. We perform enhanced enforcement of wood burning curtailment, illegal burning of residential waste, and of our anti-idling regulation. In all of those cases, this means we're spending more hours out in the field conducting proactive enforcement. Specifically for the wood burning curtailment, there's 4 hours of surveillance conducted each curtailment day, with 2 hours done in the morning and 2 in the evening. And then for our illegal burning of residential waste and anti-idling regulation, we perform quarterly surveillance. We've also performed a training program for gas stations to teach operators there how to perform self-inspections, which they're required to do in addition to our unannounced inspections. And we conduct more frequent inspections of stationary sources. So now we'll get more deeply into each one of those. So more frequent inspections means that inspections are conducted every 6 months at each permitted facility within Shafter that has had an emission violation in the past 3 years. Once 4 consecutive inspections are conducted without an emissions violation, they can return to their regular inspection frequency. And we take enforcement action when facilities fail to comply with federal, state, or local rules and regulations. As outlined in the SERP, the district performs enhanced enforcement of residential burning curtailments. So from November to February every year, the district determines the curtailment status of the day and can restrict burning in fireplaces. On curtailment days, like was said before, we perform 4 hours of enforcement. So that's 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours later in the day. And here we've got a picture of some residential burning on a curtailment day. We also perform enhanced enforcement to reduce illegal burning of residential waste. District Rule 4103 restricts open burning, and California Code of Regulations 93113 prohibits the usage of burn barrels. And we've got a picture of a burn barrel right there. Those rules allow us to limit the potential for localized particulate matter 2.5 and toxic impacts from illegal open burning of residential waste. And we perform that targeted enforcement quarterly to reduce these pollutants. And similarly, we conduct quarterly enforcement efforts for the anti-idling regulation, which reduces localized PM 2.5 also, and toxic air quality impacts that are generated by heavy-duty diesel trucks and buses. And this enforcement is primarily focused around industrial areas with frequent truck traffic. The district performed a training program for gas stations to educate them about self-inspections, which limits the potential for air quality impacts from vapor recovery defects. This training allows a gas station operator to perform thorough self-inspections in addition to the regular inspections conducted by the district, and allows for timely repairs of any vapor recovery defects that they notice during those self-inspections. Now we'll talk a little bit about public complaint responses. The pictures here represent some of the complaint types that we receive, some of our common complaint types. So on the left, we've got an example of open burning. In the middle, there's a burn in a burn barrel. And to the right, some dirt tracked out from a site, which falls under District Regulation 8 rules, which enforce dust mitigation. So agricultural burning is one of our common complaints, and ag burning is really closely regulated by the district, and it's only ever allowed to be conducted under a permit. And most agricultural burning activities are being phased out by 2025. As part of the district's close monitoring of ag burning, field staff regularly inspect burn sites to ensure that only authorized materials are burned and to see to it that best management practices are used during a burn. As I mentioned earlier, the district has a set of rules that we refer to as Regulation 8 rules that limit fugitive dust emission from construction, demolition, earth moving, bulk material storage, open areas, unpaved roads, and traffic areas that can cause dust to be carried out onto public roads. So when activity subject to these Regulation 8 rules is occurring, sites typically need to submit either a notice or a dust control plan to the district, and we perform inspections of these plans, and the sites are subject to the requirements that they list in the plan throughout the duration of their project. We also respond to complaints about dust from ag operations. District Rule 4550 limits ag-generated dust emissions. The rule requires that any ag operation that is over 100 acres or animal feeding operation over a certain size must submit a conservation management practices plan that communicates the strategies the facility will implement to reduce dust. And these are inspected every 60 months. So if you have a concern or you want to register a complaint, please contact us. We've got on-call inspectors, and so we're available to respond to complaints 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We've got a bilingual telephone complaint line and interpretation services at the ready. And there's a number of ways that you can report a complaint. You can call them in by phone, use our website, valleyair.org, or even use the district's mobile app, Valley Air. And just a note, it's best if you can report complaints to us when they're actively occurring so that we can get an inspector out at the site as soon as possible and visualize, be able to see any emission generating activity while it's happening. Finally, if you're curious to know exactly what enforcement action has been taken recently, you can access the quarterly enforcement report on our website on the Shafter page. There's a section titled Enforcement Report, and all of our quarterly reports are listed under that header. And these reports break down the points that we've talked about today: residential wood burning, illegal open burning, anti-idling, and stationary source inspections. And each of these sections details whether or not we've received any public complaints in the previous quarter and whether there were violations issued for each of those sections, categories. So we have pulled up the first quarter of 2024. So this last quarter, we received 8 total public complaints. 7 of those were about open burning, and 3 violations were issued to stationary sources, and 4 violations were issued to non-stationary sources. And this is part of that quarterly enforcement report. Each of the reports further details what type of enforcement action was taken. So you can see when a violation was issued, who it was issued to, where the violation occurred, a description of the violation, and the rule that was violated is also referenced on the far right column there. And that's all. If you have any questions in the future, our contact information is here, so you can feel free to call or send an email in. And again, if you have any complaints to report, you can call us, use the website, or use the app to get in touch with the district. So thanks again. I'm going to stop sharing and then we can talk through any questions.
This is Vanessa. Thank you so much, Karen, for that presentation. Definitely encourage anyone who has any questions about the information they just heard or anything on the slides to please speak up, or if you prefer to post in the chat, feel free to do that as well. We recognize that that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and we want to make sure that you all get the information that you're interested in learning about. So please ask questions and share comments if you have any.
This is Jessica. I saw a comment in the chat in Spanish if someone would like to read that out loud as a question for Karen.
This is Vanessa. I can read that aloud. I believe Annabelle has a question. She's asking whether the money from these violations goes back to the Shafter community.
I can help answer that one. This is Jennifer Lettergerber. I'm the compliance manager here in the Bakersfield office. So money that we collect from the district from these violations that we issued are used for a variety of reasons and activities that are performed at the district, including paying for the staff that go out and respond to these public complaints, that conduct these regular and enhanced inspections in the community. So yes, that money is used directly back in the community and in all communities throughout the valley for enforcement reasons.
This is Vanessa. Thanks, Jennifer. And thank you so much, Anava, for that question.
This is Jessica. I just want folks to know, I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, so I also dropped in the chat the enforcement report that Karen went over, and each one of those has the detail of those handful of violations that she also went over.
Bianca, I see your hand raised. Go ahead, please.
I was looking over the report and it doesn't state the amount of the violation given to the violator. Is there a certain amount that the violations are determined, or what is the standard that the air district is doing when violations are being given to these polluters?
So there are state rules and regulations that dictate some of the penalty amounts associated with violations. There are other ways we also settle violations, though. It's not always a type of like monetary penalty. All of our violations are processed in a mutual settlement arrangement with the district. And then if we can't settle those through the mutual settlement process, they may go through a legal avenue to get those remedied. And so I'm not sure if that covered the scope of your question or if
and this is Jessica, just to help. And I have one more question for you, Jennifer, and then Bianca, let us know if this helps cover it. Is in addition, I imagine a lot of the times, because of what you just described, Jennifer, of like the process that it takes sometimes, especially when I imagine it's like a bigger violation at a source that maybe requires back and forth and investigation with the source. In the cases of, for example, the ones that are listed here, it's possible not all, or if any of these are even fully settled yet in terms of like receiving the final, any sort of monetary penalty.
That's true. There is a process that we go through to complete these violations, and more detailed information is available on any specific notice of violation through the public records request process. So if you're interested in, any one of these violations, we can provide you that information through a report in the public records request process.
Bianca, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
I was wondering, anybody could do a public request for these type of documents, or is there something specific that they would want to see as an attorney to do the public request, or any residents from the community of Shafter could do that?
Yes, any member of the public can file for a public records request, and you can do that directly on our website at valleyair.org. There's a simple form to fill out that just basically asks them very general questions, what information you're seeking, and then we go through a process to produce those records through that process. But any member of the public can file for a public records request.
This is Vanessa. Thank you, Bianca, for your question. I'm wondering if that's the only way that a member of the public can submit a request. Is it possible to do it over the phone as well?
Sure, we get requests rarely over the phone, but I'm sure that would be just fine. If you wanted to call in and tell us what you're looking for, we can help fill out those forms. And then by email, those requests also come through email from time to time.
This is Vanessa. Thank you so much. And I see a question from Bianca. She's wondering if we can get the number to call in. So the number that somebody would call to submit a request over the phone. Is it the same number that was on this last
On the
slide?
very last slide, yes. That's our main line.
And I can repeat that number. This is Karen. I can repeat that number. It's 661-392-5500.
I could put that in the chat.
This is Vanessa. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from folks about this item?
This is Diana. If there's no more questions, or while you're thinking about a question, also wanted to point out in the chat, Akio put a link to the flyer for the vehicle replacement workshop too. And Rocio will send those out to you all, but if you would like one now, there's a link to that in the chat. So thank you, Akio, for doing that.
This is Vanessa. I'm not seeing any questions or comments related to district enforcement efforts, so I'm gonna go ahead and transition on to standing updates. If you do have a question related to that topic a little bit later on in the meeting, feel free to raise your hand, or you can also post it in the chat. So at this time, we're going to go through standing updates. Some of the agencies who are with us today will be sharing some information with us. We can start with the Air District. I believe Michelle has an event update to share with us.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Rivera. I am part of the outreach and communications team for the Valley Air District. I just wanted to let you guys know that we will be out in Shafter on Friday for the First Fridays event. I'm hoping to be bringing out some air purifiers, but regardless, we will be helping people sign up for the program. So if you or you know anybody that is going to be attending, please send them our way. We will be having a booth in front of the Bank of America in downtown Shafter. We will also be joining Valley Can at their event, and we will also be helping residents sign up for air purifiers. So again, if you know anybody that hasn't gotten their air purifier, please send them our way. I will also have information about some of our other programs. So if there's anything that you need, or if you need me to bring copies of anything, please let me know. Feel free to drop that information in the chat, and I'm willing to bring out anything that you guys need just to help us get a little bit more outreach in your community.
This is Jessica. I will add another update that we have that was hinted at earlier. We have our Community Clean Air Day in less than 2 weeks, which is incredible. It felt so far away because the middle of June is not in 2 weeks, but apparently it is. And so that's June 22nd. That's a Saturday. I know a bunch of you are going. If you are still on the fence, we still have room for you and we would love to have you. There is going to be a bus. It will pick up in your community. So if you're interested, I'm going to drop the link to the website in the chat. So you can go through, and there's still room to register and to let us know in that registration if you want to be on that bus. We're really, really looking forward to it. If you're a resident who already receives a stipend, you will receive a stipend at the event. So we're really excited about the day. I'm really excited to share with you all and to have you all share the work that you've been doing with other communities. And we have lots of folks that aren't a part of 617 that are planning to attend. This is about beyond 617, a lot of the work that you all do kind of across just your communities in general. So we are really excited and can't wait to see you all there. So this is your encouragement. If you've still been on the fence, it's going to be a really fun day. Everything is free. We will have food for you. We will have little tote bags and kind of other fun things to give away. And of course, you'll have a great time with all of your neighbors. So hope to see you there.
This is Diana. Vanessa and I will also both be there in person, in addition to some other members of our Harder and Company team. It was so great when we got to see you all in person in Shafter a couple months ago. So really, really looking forward to seeing you all, not just in a little square, but in 3 dimensions. So I second the encouragement to come. I'm really looking forward to it.
This is Vanessa. Yes, want to echo Diana's excitement. We're all ready to go for Community Clean Air Day, and I know that we don't get to meet up in person very often, and so really looking forward to celebrating the latest efforts with you all, connecting meaningfully in person, and just having a great all-around day. So definitely encourage you to register if you haven't already, and if you're interested in attending. Are there any questions or comments related to Community Clean Air Day or the event that Michelle talked about? Also want to encourage folks to access those air filters if they haven't already. Not seeing anything at the moment, so we'll move on to the next update. I believe we have an update from CARB, and I think Mike will be presenting that. So take it away, Mike.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Alves from CARB. Small update. We don't have cool tote bags for you, but the annual CARB report on AB 617 communities and implementation, including Shafter for 2023, hasn't come out yet, which we were hoping it would be, so we could update you guys on it, but it will be coming out next week. So I'll be sending a link to it through the Air District when it is ready. And that's all for the CARB update.
This is Vanessa. Thanks so much, Mike. Any questions or comments for CARB at this time? Not seeing anything, so we can go ahead and move on. But before we do, just want to give space to any other agencies who would like to share any updates or information with the CSC. All right, then in that case, we can move on to our wrap up next steps and agenda setting item. So first off, want to thank everyone for engaging in today's meeting. It's always great to see you all here, and I know that you all probably have very busy schedules, and so we really appreciate your attendance and all your great questions and comments. As we reach the end of our time together, we would like to share a few next steps, which are summarized on this slide. So first off, the next Shafter CSC meeting will take place on Monday, August 12th at 5 p.m. via Zoom. Please note that there isn't going to be a CSC meeting next month in July. It'll be in August. And we look forward to seeing you there. And as for agenda setting, our next agenda setting meeting will be next Monday, June 17th at 4 p.m. via Zoom. And as always, we really appreciate when people take the time out of their day to attend those agenda setting meetings. They really make for meaningful discussions, and we really enjoy hearing your suggestions about how you want to use your time and the topics that you want to keep discussing and new information that you want to learn more about. So we really want to encourage folks who are already attending those meetings to continue attending. And if you haven't come to one, definitely encourage you to come to an agenda meeting soon. It's it's a great space to be able to share feedback, learn from one another, and also agenda set for the next CSC meeting. And last but not least, we already shared this, but Community Clean Air Day will take place on Saturday, June 22nd. It's coming up fast. It's going to be in less than 2 weeks, and it's going to be at the Fresno Convention Center. And as I shared before, if you're even kind of interested in attending, we highly encourage you to register and attend. It's going to be a great day, connecting, networking, and celebrating current efforts. And it'll be a great opportunity to connect not just with residents, but also businesses, community groups, and agency partners as well. If you're interested in registering, Jessica shared the link. It's the https www.valleyair.org link. So you can just click on that and it'll allow you to register, and it'll allow you to select an option for transportation if you need transportation to and from the event. All right,
This is
so
Diana. Vanessa, can I share one plug for the agenda setting meeting?
Yes, please do. Thank you.
This is Diana. Another thing that we often do at the agenda setting meetings is talk about a meeting co-host. Every once in a while in chapter, we'll have a co-host, which means one of you help us facilitate these meetings. And what that means is whatever you want it to mean. It could mean that you do a little welcome at the beginning. It could mean that you help us introduce one of the agenda items. It could be that you help us work on the agenda. It really could be anything, as much or as little as you would like. And we could give you as much or a little support or practice or whatever with that as you would like. So if you are interested in being a co-host, either for the August meeting or for a meeting in the future, you could let us know at the agenda setting meeting next Monday, or you could always reach out to either Vanessa or me or anybody from the Air District, Jessica, Rocio, and we could help you with that. It's really fun, and I think it's really helpful for your co-CSC members to hear directly from one of you all as well. So think about that if you have any inclination.
This is Vanessa. Yes, Diana, thank you so much for that plug. As she mentioned, we're happy to work with you in preparing for co-hosting. If that's something that you're interested in, you can do something as little as sharing a quick update, or if you want to co-host the entire meeting, we're happy to help you prepare for that too. Also, you're probably tired of hearing from us the entire meeting for 2 hours. So in addition to it being helpful, hearing these updates and other information from your fellow CSC members, it's also a great way to, change the facilitation up a bit. So definitely encourage you to let us know if you're interested in co-hosting. All right. So that is it for next steps. This is Vanessa. At this time, I'm going to review action items. So we do this in order to help with transparency and accountability. We want to make sure that you know that we're tracking action items throughout this meeting, and we also want to give you a chance to take a look at them and modify them if we need to. So at this time, I'm going to share my screen so you can see the action items that we have for today. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay,
actually, can you move it up a little?
like that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. This is Vanessa. So we only have one action item for today, but it is an important one. So the action item is the Air District will send physical flyer for a vehicle replacement sign-up event to CSC via mail so they can share with their networks. And we'll also provide the link to the flyer, which I believe the link has already been provided in the chat. So if that's something that you're interested in accessing, feel free to go to the chat and click on that link. And Jessica, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
If I can add one more action item, which is to, at our next meeting, report out on our outreach event for the Valley Can vehicle replace measure, as well as do a check-in in December regarding program progress. And thanks to Bianca for that suggestion.
This is Vanessa. Thank you, Bianca, and thank you, Jessica. Can you repeat that last portion of the item?
And just check in December regarding measure progress.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any things that folks would like to change about the existing action items, or are there any other action items that we've missed? I'm not seeing anything, so I will stop sharing my screen. Thanks so much, everyone. This is Vanessa. Thanks again to everyone for your continued engagement. We're really grateful that you've all attended today's meeting and have shared, whether that was a question or a comment. At this time, we'd like to open up the floor to anyone who would like to make any final comments. And as a reminder, community member comments are important to this process to make sure that the program is shaped with community input in mind. And so if you're interested in making a comment, we do ask that you follow the instructions on the slide. Please raise your Zoom hand or type a comment in the chats to share a question or comments, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
This is Diana. Vanessa, are there any comments in the YouTube Live?
This is Vanessa. I'm not seeing any comments on YouTube Live.
Thank you for checking.
This is Vanessa. I'm going to pause for a bit just to give people some time to make those questions and comments. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I'm not seeing any hands raised. So that wraps up our meeting for today. With that, oh, actually, I see a comment from Maribel. This is Vanessa. I'm having a little bit of trouble of translating that. Would someone from the interpretation team mind? Oh, thank you. This is Vanessa. I see the comment. We don't get bored of watching and listening to them. That's really sweet. Thank you so much, Maribel. I really appreciate that. Okay. Well, this is Vanessa. In that case, I'm going to pass it on to Jessica for final remarks before we conclude today's meeting.
I am just really excited. There's been so much progress made in the Shafter SERP and definitely a lot more to come. But I really do think today marks a really big milestone. I believe that every single residential facing program is now open and launched in your SERP. And I know it took some time and some lift, but I appreciate you all working with us and moving that forward. This is a really big milestone, and we're really eager to see how Monday night goes and how kind of the engagement the rest of the year goes. So thank you for being a part of tonight. Thank you to our partners who came and presented today. And a thank you ahead of time for those that are making the trip up here to be a part of our day next Saturday. We have a lot in store, and it should be a really great time. So thanks all, and have a really great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
This is
Bye.
Vanessa. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Till next time.
Bye, Angie.